Hey there and welcome to Scandal Steep. Chuck Berry, often celebrated as the pioneer of rock and roll, is a figure whose influence on the genre is undeniable. However, the story behind the man who shaped modern music is far from the simple tale of a musical genius. Beyond his groundbreaking hits, Berry's life was clouded by controversy, legal troubles, and disturbing behavior that Hollywood worked hard to keep hidden from the public eye. From his early days of electrifying guitar riffs to his profound impact on the evolution of rock, his legacy is a mixture of brilliance and controversy. Yet, beneath his immortal tunes lies a story so shocking that it risks overshadowing the legacy he left behind. Chuck Berry was not just a musician, he was the embodiment of an era. His music brought together elements of blues, jazz, and country, melding them into the wild sound of rock and roll that would become the soundtrack of generations. His early recordings, from the upbeat Maybelline to the iconic Johnny B. Goode, paved the way for a new wave of music and influenced the Beatles, the Drifters, and countless rockers who followed. But while his musical genius set the stage for future stars, his personal life painted a much darker picture. Behind the scenes, Berry's actions and relationships with women, along with his legal battles and allegations, cast a shadow over the man behind the music. One of the most disturbing aspects of Berry's life involved explicit tapes that surfaced later in his career. These tapes reportedly showed the rock legend in compromising and disturbing situations, including inappropriate conduct with women. In one of these tapes, Berry allegedly farts loudly before urinating in a woman's mouth, a shocking and grotesque act that contrasted deeply with the man who had given us some of the most uplifting rock anthems of all time. How could the same man who had once famously crooned "Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll" also be accused of such repulsive behavior? What was the truth behind the criminal allegations, the disturbing recordings, and the secret life that Berry worked so hard to keep hidden from the public? Despite these darker moments in his life, Chuck Berry's brilliance as a musician is beyond dispute. His contributions to rock and roll are considered nothing short of revolutionary. Berry's tracks set the foundation for the genre's evolution, and his influence on artists like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Bob Dylan is immeasurable. His lyrics, often simple but full of vivid storytelling, were the perfect vehicle for his raw energy and infectious rhythms. Yet, despite the accolades and admiration, his life offstage tells a far more complicated and, at times, disconcerting story. Born in 1926 in St. Louis, Missouri, Berry was the fourth of 6 children in a working-class family. His upbringing was far from glamorous, and the neighborhood he grew up in was racially segregated, a detail that would shape much of his perspective on the world. In fact, it wasn't until Berry was 3 years old that he first saw a white person, when firefighters responded to a blaze in his neighborhood. According to Berry, the firemen's faces appeared as chalk white to him, and he was terrified by the loud explosion that accompanied the fire. His father explained the situation to him, but this moment would leave an indelible mark on Berry, representing the division that characterized his early life. Even with the racial tensions of his environment, Berry found his calling in music, which would become the one place where he truly felt he belonged. His father was a local church minister, and his mother sang in the church choir, so music was embedded in his upbringing from a young age. At just 6 years old, Berry joined the church choir, where his passion for music began to grow. However, it was not in the church that he would find his true fame. That moment would come during his high school years when he performed at a talent show with a friend, who played the guitar while Berry sang. The crowd loved their performance, but little did anyone know that they were witnessing the birth of a rock legend. Rock and roll was still years away, but the seeds of Berry's career were already being sown. After high school, Berry's life took a darker turn. Along with his friends, he embarked on a reckless spree, stealing a car and causing trouble at local businesses. Berry's youthful mischief caught up with him when he was arrested and sentenced to a 10-year prison term. While incarcerated at the Missouri State Penitentiary, Berry did not allow the experience to stifle his passion for music. In fact, he formed a quartet with fellow inmates and performed at church services, even playing outside the prison walls at local venues. After serving just 3 years of his sentence, Berry was released for good behavior, and he wasted no time getting back on track with his music career. By the time he left prison, Berry was a married man with a family to support. In 1948, he married Theda Drink Suggs, a woman who would stay by his side throughout his tumultuous life. The couple had a child together, and suddenly, Berry had a new set of responsibilities. But he quickly realized that being a husband and father required more than ambition, it required financial stability. To make ends meet, Berry took on a variety of odd jobs, working in a factory, as a janitor, and even training as a cosmetologist. However, despite his steady income from these jobs, Berry still harbored a deep desire to pursue music. Music had always been part of Berry's life, even if it wasn't yet his career. During this time, he started playing small gigs at local venues in St. Louis. These performances reignited his passion for music, and before long, he began dreaming of turning his hobby into something more. With his sights set on the music industry, Berry headed to Chicago, where he hoped to find opportunities. His big break came when blues legend Muddy Waters suggested that he contact Leonard Chess, the co-founder of Chess Records. Following the advice, Berry signed a deal with Chess and recorded his first hit single, Maybelline. This song, a unique blend of country and blues with a rockabilly twist, was unlike anything audiences had heard before, and it rocketed up the charts. Maybelline wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural phenomenon. Many music historians consider it the first true rock and roll song, and its success marked the beginning of Berry's legendary career. But success did not come without its challenges. After the release of Maybelline, Berry discovered that others were trying to claim credit for writing the song. Refusing to let anyone take what was rightfully his, he took the matter to court and successfully reclaimed full songwriting credit, ensuring that he would receive all the royalties from the track. With this victory, Berry cemented his place as not just a star, but a trailblazer. His influence extended far beyond the charts. The Beatles, in particular, were among his biggest fans, with John Lennon famously saying that if you tried to give rock and roll a new name, you could call it Chuck Berry. However, Berry's relationship with the Beatles was not without its tension. When the band released Come Together, Berry's publisher accused them of copying elements from his song You Can't Catch Me. The dispute was eventually settled, with Lennon agreeing to record songs for Berry's publisher, but it highlighted the deep impact that Berry's music had on the next generation of rock musicians. As his fame grew, Berry began to expand his influence outside of music. In the late 1950s, he opened his own club, the Chuck Berry Club, in a predominantly white neighborhood. This bold move was a reflection of both his ambitions and his belief in breaking down racial barriers. The club became a symbol of his success and a place where music lovers from all walks of life could come together. However, this period of triumph would later be overshadowed by the darker chapters of his life, including multiple legal issues and disturbing allegations that would follow him well into the 1980s. Despite the controversies surrounding him, Berry's musical legacy remained intact. Even as his personal life became more complicated, his music continued to inspire new generations of artists. In the 1970s, Berry shifted his focus from recording new material to performing live. His energetic live shows became legendary, with his signature duck walk and charismatic stage presence captivating audiences around the world. In 1972, he achieved his first #1 hit with the live version of My Ding A Ling, further solidifying his place in rock history. But as with many artists, Berry's later years were marked by personal struggles and legal troubles. He was investigated by the IRS for tax evasion, which led to a brief stint in jail, and his relationships with fellow musicians often remained strained. Yet, despite these challenges, Berry's music continued to thrive. In 1986, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a well-deserved recognition of his immense contribution to the genre. Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones, a longtime fan of Berry's, was the one who inducted him into the Hall of Fame, making for a poignant moment in rock history. Chuck Berry's influence on rock and roll cannot be overstated. His music, a fusion of blues, country, and rhythm and blues, helped to define the sound of the 20th century and beyond. However, his life was a testament to the complexities of fame and the duality of genius. His legacy is marred by personal demons, but his contributions to music remain undeniable. Despite his flaws, Berry's music has continued to inspire generations of musicians, and his place in the pantheon of rock legends is firmly secured.